David Hogg is salty because GOA refuses to give an inch to the uniparty in Washington that wants to negotiate your rights away. And Hogg is angry about something to do with a GOA-endorsed candidate, but this really isn't about the candidate. He knows that while GOA is going to work with any member of Congress that wants to fight for gun rights, we're going to call out every one of them that sells you out. So as a way to introduce ourselves to David Hogg, here are some of the fights for gun rights that GOA has been in and won. We fight the NFA, with the ultimate goal of getting rid of it entirely. We're going after the NFA with the Silencers Help Us Save Hearing, or SHUSH Act, the Home Defense and Competitive Shooting Act, and the No Frivolous Applications for Short-Barreled Shotguns Act. GOA helped members of Congress write those bills, and those bills would remove suppressors, short-barreled rifles, and short-barreled shotguns from the NFA, meaning no more registration, no more taxation, no more fingerprinting, or notifying the ATF when your personal property crosses state lines. And guess what? AOWs are next. Our goal is to get rid of the NFA. And so what about those COVID lockdowns and gun stores? Because of the insane lockdowns and weak or power-hungry politicians, criminals were allowed to own American cities. And these same politicians were going to then deem gun stores non-essential and shut them down. So that's why GOA got the Trump administration to declare the entire Second Amendment industry essential. So after we reached out to them, the Trump administration amended their essential business designation within a week. A lot of people wanted the administration to make this change, and GOA was right there in the middle of it. It was also huge because a lot of states automatically accepted the federal government's definition of essential business, meaning it immediately protected the Second Amendment industry in many states. Other states still tried this crazy idea and actually attempted to shut down gun stores and ranges. So GOA sued the state of Virginia and won, allowing gun stores and ranges to remain open. And while sheriff's offices in some states and counties were taking their sweet time to issue pistol permits, GOA got busy suing them, so Americans in those areas could exercise their Second Amendment rights. So that's why GOA sued Mecklenburg County Sheriff Gary McFadden for his refusal to issue pistol permits and concealed permits in a timely manner. And while we're at it, let me know in the comments if you're the type that hates laws that require sheriffs to issue permits in a timely manner. It should be constitutional carry in every state. By the way, thanks in part to GOA, the good guys won that case. So are the people like David Hogg who don't know what we do every day starting to get a picture of what's happening? I can tell you from personal experience that before I actually had a formal role with GOA, I used to go to them a lot to get help with Second Amendment issues. And then there's our old friend David Chipman, who has a perfect track record of not being confirmed to the ATF. You know all about him and why he went down, but I want to talk about how something like that happens, and hopefully you'll have some insight into how GOA works. We think our members should know. So defeating David Chipman wasn't guaranteed. We had two parts to our plan to beat his nomination. The first, and this is always most important, we talked about him to you guys. The GOA grassroots is where we can get the wins for this kind of stuff and beat back nominees like him. Part two was to work with the Senate, and they're not exactly known for being great on guns, but all nominations like Chipman's go through the Senate, so that's where we spent our time. GOA held regular meetings with these offices, but we also brought your concerns directly to them because many senators have basically two goals. The first is to get elected, and the second is to get elected again. If they know that supporting a nominee like Chipman might hurt their chances at re-election or higher office, they're gonna think twice. Not a single piece of gun control is going to move without GOA putting up a fight. They have to know that they're gonna shed blood, sweat, and tears and money to move their agenda across the finish line. They get nothing for free. And what about this thing we've all heard about before called the Violence Against Women Act? This has gun control in it too, specifically red flag gun confiscation. I'm just gonna call those GCOs because that's a mouthful. I've mentioned this before, but the Violence Against Women Act they want to pass actually lets women raise children in prison. And I don't mean a halfway home, I don't mean on house arrest, I mean literally behind prison bars. This thing is crazy. And yeah, there's gun control in it, and I've talked about it before, so I'm not going to go over it again. But here's the strategy that GOA had to beat it back and win. Sometimes you've got to work with unlikely allies, and so GOA worked with a coalition of Second Amendment groups and women's groups to kill this bill. Normally the way these things work is that each group that opposes a bill is going to try to kill it on their own. But we know that there's strength in numbers, just like our grassroots is our strength in numbers. And this coalition has been going strong for almost 5 years. And every time this VAWA bill comes up for a possible vote, our coalition gets back together and beats it. Do you remember the Toomey Manchin universal background checks bill? GOA beat that. And that's exactly what a spokesman for Senator Chuck Schumer said back in 2013. Specifically, he said GOA was making it extremely hard to get a deal on background checks. Then in 2021, GOA had to go through this again with something we called Toomey Manchin Light. It was still a lot of the same terrible universal background check stuff, and again, people knew we were right in the middle of it. There's a lot more I could go over, including the lawsuits we've prepared for Biden's proposed ATF rule changes. There's helping pass constitutional carry in 21 states, including Iowa, Montana, Texas, Tennessee, and Utah, and that's in 2021 alone. And of course, we could talk about winning our bump stock case before a 3-judge panel in the 6th Circuit, and then continuing that fight before the entire panel. I made a video about that so you can check it out. And we've supported both the Kansas and Texas anti-NFA suppressor laws because the NFA sucks. Anti-gunners like David Hogg are used to dealing with weak-kneed 2A politicians and advocates who surrender at the first sight of criticism from a hysterical corporate press. But that's not us. Some things are non-negotiable.